right, good morning, everyone. All right, so how many here have actually attended one of my other sessions? Awesome. Well, this one is is different than the other ones. What we're going to be talking about today is some of the net new features that are coming on the roadmap for administrators across PowerApps, Flow, and Microsoft Dynamics 365, specifically on the customer engagement side. My name is James Olenek. I'm a PM director for the Business Application Group. My team owns all of the administrative plane for PowerApps, Flow, and Dynamics 365, that is, CE, customer engagement. And so we own a lot of the administrator, admin center experiences, management experiences from a tooling perspective. And so I'm going to be talking about, just really briefly, a couple slides covering what we've covered so far in MBAS and with the session code such that you can actually look at that content after the fact. And I also have Manuela here to talk about from a Virgin Atlantic perspective. I don't know if you saw her video in the keynote, but what she's going to do today is her perspective just from an IT perspective around kind of that whole adoption within Virgin to kind of put into perspective some of the things that we're going to talk about today and some of the things that are coming. Oh, sorry, I should have had that up here. So quick summary, stuff that's coming. We're going to have like 9 or 10 features that we're going to talk through today. And then Manuela's going to come up at the end for at least 15, 20 minutes and talk about her journey, and you can ask questions. So hopefully by now you know a little bit about the Power Platform. What I'm going to be focusing on today is PowerApps, Flow, and Dynamics 365, which again is on top of this, bad image. I'm not going to be focusing as much on the Power BI side. If you have those questions, let me know. I'm happy to point you to the Power BI team that owns the administrative experiences for them. And today, I'm actually curious, I know I've done this in some of my other sessions, but how many Office 365 service administrators do we have in the room? Raise your hand. Okay. What about Dynamics 365 service admins? Who's an Azure admin as well? Global admins? Just power users interested. So it's good we have some, but it's not good like we have a pretty much completely covering the spectrum of admins across our cloud businesses. And as you'll learn later today, we have a new service admin role for the Power Platform coming that I think all of you should get added to as well in your tenants. And I know I've covered this. I mean, I think Charles had even a better slide in his roadmap session. But part of the reason why we're here today is the Power Platform is really taking hold. We're seeing incredible growth across the new suite of products, the Power BI, PowerApps, and Flow. And this is on top of the base of customers we already have today on Dynamics, and companies that have adopted Dynamics 365 and many of the customer engagement suite of apps at scale within their businesses. And really we see this kind of new movement of PowerApps and Flow of individuals within companies being empowered to build applications. And today I want to talk around a lot of the administrative features are framed within this perspective that we kind of as a team and as a product are really trying to embrace the empowerment aspect, where it's very different than the historical way that Dynamics apps were built. You know, they're complex, they're large deployments. A lot of times they go through partners to be deployed and implemented within companies. But contrast that with, at the same time, we have to build an administrative experience that not only supports kind of that way of deploying, but also provides the tools that you need to manage the new type of developer, these citizen developers that are really being empowered to build solutions for themselves, for their immediate team. And at the same time, kind of like our charter as within my team is giving that full visibility, that full control, that full ability to see the landscape of development within your company. And depending on how big your company is, you might even have multiple different deployments going on within the same time, spanning Dynamics, spanning PowerApps and Flow, Accommodated Service, and Power BI. And a lot of what we've talked about today and throughout both the pre-day and on Monday was some of those best practices that exist today. And today I'm going to be talking around how we're planning on evolving that going forward. So there was 2 sessions, and in the pre-day we covered all of this on Sunday. And I'm happy to share the link afterwards of where you can download the pre-day content if you didn't join. But I had a topic section yesterday, and we also had an automation and ALM session yesterday as well. And those kind of covered the governance aspect, kind of steps 1 through 4, as I call it, from secure all the way to deployment and ALM, and covered kind of the gambit of the best practices, really of what we have today. And so I would urge you to take a look at those session contents. Both, I know mine was recorded in the morning, and I know that the deck content is available for all of them. And just now, Saurabh walked through kind of the next phases, which is, how you want to go beyond governance and actually start approaching kind of the growing and nurturing aspect of, especially from a citizen developer perspective, how you want to grow and foster the right behavior within your company, really taking advantage of some of the first champions and individuals that are starting to build, and how do you kind of grow and build on that. And that just happened this morning, and the link there is there as well. But, what I'm going to talk about today, as I reiterated multiple times, is, okay, where are we going forward? And I think the first most important thing is, what are the principles that we're taking from an admin team is building any new functionality. What we're really striving to do is support it first from an automation perspective. So take an API first approach, enabling things through our commandlets, our management connector. We're going to see going forward, we're going to be building Azure DevOps Task for a lot of our common management capabilities around environment lifecycle, package deployment solution management, and even for kind of the accommodative service SDK and REST APIs, we even have those as well. And then really kind of our goal as a team is enabling that automation and API first approach allows you at large to handle the scale and build those custom solutions that you need for your company. And then as we see enough need for some of these common scenarios, we're going to be pulling that into the admin center for a very self-service way of doing it. And that's kind of in general how we're approaching any new piece of functionality. And here's kind of a couple things that we're going to be going through today. So this is kind of the 9 different sets of tools that we'll be talking through, and I'll be going through them one by one. And just bear in mind that kind of this is under the guise and under the mantra of building things from enabling an automation perspective and then pulling it into our administrative experiences second. You'll also be getting the deck online too. Cool. So the first thing I want to talk through is we will be consolidating the 3 different administrative experiences that we have for the application platform into the Power Platform Admin Center, which is available today in preview. This is going to be launching for October. We've already started porting over those capabilities, and sometimes they're living side by side. And so pardon our dust as we pull this over, but the reason why we're doing that is we're trying to provide a single experience for people that build on top of the application platform. So all of the environment management will be done within the Power Platform Admin Center. We actually will be launching that later this month, as we'll be talking about later, where you'll have a single unified view of all of your environments, which are now kind of equivalent across Dynamics, PowerApps, and Flow, because for every Dynamics instance, it has a PowerApps environment. And so we're going to have that single view even coming before October. We're also going to be pulling in all of the sandbox operations that exist for Dynamics into that experience. We've already started doing that as well. All of the resource management, the app and flow management from a PowerApps perspective, a data loss prevention policy, that'll be coming in as well. And we even have some great analytics and gateway management capabilities that we've already added to the Power Platform Admin Center, because any net new capability that we're adding, we kind of will add it here instead of in those legacy experiences that will be folded in by the end of the year. Okay. And the one thing there is we are not quite there with the Power BI team in terms of pulling them in, although they are making some improvements in their Admin Center experience. But the goal is to align with them next calendar year. But it will likely not land for October. And so coming, and actually this will be coming, can't say it will be coming by the end of this month, but within the next 2 months we'll be launching our new way of provisioning and capacity governance. And I'll go into a little bit more details around the capacity model that we actually have announced over the past couple of months now. But the key things to understand is For Dynamics, you used to just worry about one set of capacity, which was database capacity, and you had to purchase separate environment add-ons, as we'll see. And going forward in the model, and this now extends to include PowerApps and Flow, we have different types of capacity that you have to manage across your tenant, which is database capacity, file capacity, and log capacity. And this is relevant if you want to create additional environments within your organization for various different purposes, ALM purposes or management purposes. And if you need to care about file and log capacity if you leverage the Common Data Service as a data platform for certain applications. And again, this also applies to Dynamics 365 customer engagement because they really are just, to us behind the scenes, Common Data Service instances that are hosted on the same platform as PowerApps CDS instances. It's just a different set of metadata and applications that are deployed on top. But from a management and administrative point of view, especially from capacity, it's the same experience to govern it. And what I'll also be showing in a second is we have a single entry point for provisioning new environments going forward, and that'll be folded into the Power Platform Admin Center. So this is a CRM instance as it's kind of called today. We're now aligning on the concept of an environment. You will provision all of those environments and provision those databases, or albeit CDS database or CRM database from within the Power Platform Admin Center. And going forward, and part of the model that will be changing that I'll go through in a minute here is today for PowerApps, you have to have PowerApps Plan 2 license in order to be able to provision production environments, and you get 2 environments per Plan 2 license. And in this new model, that will be going away, and instead the amount of environments, the number of environments you'll be able to provision will be dictated based on your available database capacity within your organization. It kind of accrues up and rolls up to the tenant level. And that's dictated based on the licenses that you've purchased, and you can also purchase capacity standalone through the commerce flows that we have. And just to kind of go through in a little bit more detail what I'm talking about. So today, like I said, there's really only database storage that matters from a Dynamics perspective. We also include a database storage as well from a PowerApps perspective from our licensing, although we never provided reporting around it, and now we've added that. And the cool thing about this today is you actually can go to the Power Platform Admin Center, aka.ms/ppac, and see the database capacity, file capacity, and log capacity that's actually available and consumed within your tenant today. So this reporting around this is actually available already. And the link, it's kind of cut off there. But there's actually, we have both a blog and in our docs, we have kind of a detailed breakdown that explains different storage capacities and how you accrue usage to each of them. And to go into a little bit more detail, this is from a Dynamics 365 customer engagement perspective. So on the left here, you have, for example, how database storage is accrued today. You kind of get some default amount. If you have a single license in your tenant, you accrue some additional database capacity for each USL, and then you can actually purchase more database capacity via add-ons. Now going forward, we've introduced the 2 new types of capacity, as you see here, file and log. And this is actually the way this is going to work is within database, and part of the reasoning why we're doing this is there are many different types of data that's stored within CDS today that are actually lend themselves to be stored in a different way, really not in a transactional database. Things like attachments, documents, high volume log and auditing data. And so those will be broken out into different storage mechanisms that have different prices, as you see here. And another key thing that's happening, and this is part of the reason, why we're changing this here on the instances side is to kind of facilitate a single DevOps and provisioning model. But today, previously, the Dynamics model was all around purchasing instances separately, right? So you had to purchase the sandbox and production instances that you needed. And going forward, those add-ons have been removed, and you will provision based off of your pool of database capacity. So your database capacity will be decremented both based off the number of environments you've provisioned and also the amount of database storage that has been accrued within those environments. And I'll visualize and show you what I mean in a second. From a PowerApps perspective, PowerApps also had accrued entitlements for storage, although we didn't provide reporting around it previously. And as I said, you got 2 environments for Plan 2 license. Now, it also was restricted today in our service at a per-user level, which actually kind of prevented a lot of those DevOps processes because you always hit that per-user limit around environments. The licenses for PowerApps and Flow that were included within Office or the standalone Plan 1 did not allow you to provision environments. And going forward, as you see, very similar models from the Dynamics perspective, from a capacity perspective. Same set of capacity that you need to worry about. The provisioning will be based off of the same model going forward. We're getting rid of the 2 per P2 license. Okay? Cool. And so just to visualize this really quick, because I think this helps, and if you've attended some of the other sessions, I think I've shown this as well. So this is actually the capacity report for the Microsoft tenant, of which we actually have a ton of user licenses, as you see here, something in the 500,000 licenses. And that actually gives us a lot of database capacity to work with. Maybe for your tenant, you'll be in the GB or MB range. And what you can see here is I'm obviously not a global admin of this environment in Microsoft, that is, or even a service admin, but I am an environment admin of a certain environments, and I can actually see, just minimize here for a second, I can actually see for some of these environments how much database, file, and log usage is being accrued. And if I go down, one important thing to call out is there are certain types of environments like developer and trial environments that don't accrue and don't decrement that capacity. It only gets pulled from production and sandbox environments. Really, they are treated the same from a capacity perspective, right? And it's possible for some environments that they're actually not leveraging file and log storage. They're only pulling data from a database perspective. It really depends on which entities you're leveraging, and for example, for log, have you enabled CDS logging for that environment? So it depends, and you will have some control over how these are actually being decremented based on the entities and capabilities you're enabling within your environments. And really what we're trying to do here with this report is give you a good breakdown around how that capacity is being decremented across your organization. And coming soon, we'll also be providing more detailed trends. This actually will be launching hopefully later this month. You'll see trends over time of the consumption per environment across your tenant, and also broken down based on the different entities that are consumed within your common data service and Dynamics instances. Okay? The other thing I want to call out is this is our test environment. Oh, looks like something happened. Live demos and tip. And I'm not going to do the full end-to-end, but I just want to show the actual environment creation flow really quick that we're working on. So if you go, sorry, I'm going to switch back to prod. If you go to the environments experience, you see today, hey, we say it's coming soon for provisioning new environments. But what we're going to be adding is the ability to provision new environments. And this is what I was talking about, that say I'm going to go provision a trial environment, and I am going to provision CDS within there. And you can see here that although we're not supporting the trial environments for Dynamics initially, you'll be able to, through this experience, provision both net new environments for common data service and also set up CRM instances where you would select this to yes and actually provision a Dynamics 365 customer engagement database for this environment as well. And so this is kind of that new seamless experience. We're also going to be having a new set of APIs that are provisioning all of this. So we're going to be refreshing, as we'll talk about later, the commandlets, PowerShell commandlets and management connectors that allow you to programmatically do this. We'll be talking about the Azure DevOps tasks that are coming. They're all on top of the same set of APIs. And hopefully you see here how by consolidating the provisioning experience and consolidating the model to be based off available capacity, we're enabling kind of a new set of automation, a new suite of automation that is possible on top of the platform, both from a Dynamics perspective and a PowerApps perspective going forward. Oh. Okay, cool. Any questions around that? Because I covered a lot right there. Let me go back. I know some of it we talked about already, but I just wanted to kind of really root that because a lot of what we're talking about today is based on that. No, no. The capacity that will be here will be if you enable it for CDS. And actually coming soon, I don't know if it's available out yet, we're going to be improving some of the policies around archiving and cleaning up those logs, because today it's fairly rough and crude. And so that's actually going to be coming out as well. You'll be able to set how long, for example, you want certain things to be deleted, or or cleaned up. So that's actually going to be coming soon. And that'll be available through the settings experience for the environment within the Power Platform Admin Center. Go ahead. Yes. 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 You'll select that here. Sorry, I don't have enough capacity to provision the production environment, as you see here, or permissions to do so. So you will do that. Let me just try. You'll select that. If you had toggled this, you would select those options within this experience. So it's a good question. So today, we actually think of how things are provisioned underneath the covers as we kind of have a template for the database that we stamp out. So if you choose yes here and say I want to enable one that has dynamics, it uses a different template for that stamp than CDS. Now today we have kind of something we're working on, and we will fix this where you actually can't provision dynamics apps into a CDS stamped environment. Because they're not fully decoupled, and basically it has to do with how the apps are structured. And we're working to fully decouple the apps from the platforms, and our goal is that you can stamp out CDS environments and then deploy apps on them after the fact. That's not the case today. So basically, if you choose yes here, the environment that you would get is the same as if you went through the Dynamics Admin Center and provisioned a CE instance. If you didn't press yes here, you would get the same CDS environment as you would provision today from the PowerApps experience, right? Which would not have the Dynamics apps installed. The goal is to have them kind of be the same stamp, and then you can deploy apps on top of it in the full extent of time. I hope we'll be there for October. I don't think it's going to land, but that's where we want to get to that point, where you're kind of provisioning kind of the same thing and then deploying apps on top. Yes, and well, man, you're getting ahead of me. I'm actually going to talk about the licensing changes that are coming. So to just briefly answer your question and steal my thunder for the next slide, is today for Dynamics you don't have to actually be licensed to manage the service, right? You just have to have the appropriate authorization and role. We're snapping to that same model for PowerApps and Flow because the previous model was dumb. It's already there today. Yes, and actually already on the gateway team, they've actually, and I have a slide around new gateway management stuff coming too, but they've actually added some continuing set of features around gateways, and I don't think I have any gateway access. Here, let me see if I have one in this tenant. So if you go to the gateway experience here, I hope I have some gateways in here in this experience. I think that you have to actually be a tenant admin to do this today, but that's right. With the new Power Platform Service Admin role that I'll be talking about, you will also be able to manage gateways, as I'll talk about in a second. Let me see if I have gateways on this account. So I don't, but I have the tenant admin privileges. So for example, you'll have visibility to all the gateway admins within your tenant. You also can control who can install gateways here, and their team is actually building more and more capabilities within this experience. So you'll have that visibility here. They don't have great PowerShell commandlets around enumerating them yet from the perspective of an admin. You can do it as a gateway admin, but not as a tenant admin, but they are working on that as well to support kind of the automation story. All right, I'm gonna keep trucking. Okay. Sorry. So I want to cover that. We have announced some of this already, but I think it's very important because it's kind of a lot of the changes that we're talking about going forward are really based on that foundation. So this is what I was referring to per your question. So today, PowerApps Plan 2, Flow Plan 2 licenses are required to do the majority of the experience that's relevant within the PowerApps and Flow admin centers today. So if you want to do CRUD on environments, CRUD on CDS, CRUD on data loss prevention policies, if you want to have access to the admin analytics, you have to have a Plan 2 license. So when we're making our suite of admin changes later this summer, that restriction will be removed. Now you just need to have the appropriate access to the environment in order to administrate it. If you're a tenant admin or a service admin, you can see all environments. If you're not a service admin, it works the same way it does today, where you can, and if you're added as a system administrator or environment admin, you can have admin scope over just that set of environments where you're an admin. One thing I do want to call out is that the changes we're making here, we're doing at an API level, so these changes will apply to all of our tooling as well as to our admin center experiences. One other change that we're making as well is with kind of this licensing removal, we will be allowing anyone to provision net new environments as long as there's available capacity. And if as an organization you want to lock that down, we have a setting that you can enable that will restrict it to only global and service admins, which is how it works today for Dynamics 365. Okay? So that's available just through the PowerApps commandlets, the admin commandlets that we have available today. And you can actually go set this right now if you wanted to, in preparation for the changes that are coming out. And we have a good blog that covers this and many of the other changes that are coming out. The link's there below. It's on some of the later slides as well. Okay. We will be adding a Power Platform Service Admin role. It'll be showing up within the Microsoft 365 admin experiences as well as with Azure. It's just another AAD custom admin role, similar to how Power BI and the Dynamics 365 Service Admin role is managed today. The goal of this role is effectively mimic the privileges of a tenant admin for the PowerApps, Flow, Power BI, and Gateway products. I know Gateway's not a product, but it kind of spans the Power Platform. So members of this role or groups of this role, if you've added them, will have full access to all the environments. That includes, spans Dynamics environments as well, because now we're kind of consolidating the platform. They will also have access to the Power BI service. They'll have full access to PowerApps and Flow, and also full access to all the gateways, as I was alluding to earlier. One other change that is also happening is Dynamics 365 Service Admins. One update we'll be making is we're not taking away any capabilities, but they will have access to all of the unified environments that span Dynamics, PowerApps, and Flow. So they will have more environments showing up that previously they saw. Today they would only see those that have Dynamics or CDS/CDS installed within them. And so that is one, they will, in the new experience, see potentially more environments that they have to manage today. But we are not changing any of the existing roles. We're not removing any access, but we are introducing this as a new admin role going forward. I know this was a top ask from a lot of folks towards the end of last year in Ignite. So I'm excited around this to allow people to be self-service around who has access to these capabilities within their organization. As we were talking about, this is a slide that I stole from the Gateway team that builds all the management plane for the Gateway infrastructure, and they have a ton of improvements that they're planning on making, and this actually spans both Power BI, PowerApps, and Flow, and I know some of the top things that they're doing is they're really looking on a lot of performance improvements with the current experience, and as you've seen, and Artie's done a bunch of good blogs. One was just posted this morning that's really around providing a better management experiences for these gateways. Not only within the Power Platform Admin Center, but also from a programmatic point of view, being able to deploy gateways from a programmatic point of view through a CLI, and having the API and PowerShell support for managing them, and really having a better lifecycle story around the gateways, making them actually feel like a first-class citizen and resource of the Power Platform. I'm super excited around this, given that most of the customers that we work with have some kind of on-premise data that they're having to manage. And one of the top asks that I know that we've taken away from MBAST is although we have a manual process for moving gateways from the default environment where they show up today in PowerApps and Flow to other production or non-default environments, we need to automate that as well. And I know that's an ask that we're tracking on our team, and we want to make that self-service as well, even though it isn't today. All right, so a couple things that we're actually considering rolling out for data loss prevention, and really think of this as building on top of the DLP capabilities that we have today, and really under the guise of providing more granular control. So directionality and data classification are two key things that I know we've gotten a ton of asks around. So today, you categorize your business connectors, and it doesn't depend if you're reading from that connector or those connectors are reading and writing from them. Whereas you may want to be able to read from Twitter in an environment but not write to it, and that's certainly applicable to a lot of those non-business data sources. This capability, number one, will give you that control. Data classification is also another thing that we're looking at rolling out, which is really around for that content you've classified, not allowing that high confidentiality data to be used and sent in conjunction with something that's a site that's not marked with that same classification. This is, I know, especially important into a lot of the products that you're using across Office today, where you actually are tagging that data. Another thing that we're looking at rolling out is really is based off of the fact that I know a lot of companies that we've worked with, they have a lot of external companies that you partner with, vendors that you work with. You have a lot of guest or foreign principals throughout your tenant, and there are reasons where you might want to be able to support build Canvas apps and flows to your full-time employees and have different set of controls for your external vendor companies, and so that's also something that we're looking at rolling out. And another one that I know I've heard specifically from Chevron, who's one of our closest partners, I don't know if anyone's in today, was the fact that once you start reaching a critical mass of deploying a lot of Canvas apps and flows within a single production live environment, there definitely becomes a case where you may want to have policies that are tailored or excluded from certain Canvas apps and flows that are deployed within there. And what we definitely don't want to do from a platform perspective is force you to have bad environment strategy just based off of some of the limitations of our controls. And this is really kind of pointing to that, which is if it makes sense from a DevOps and ALM perspective for you to deploy all these apps into a single environment, but you can't based off of the granularity controls around DLP, we want to kind of remove that. We don't want to have you land into a bad best practice just because of the limitations of our platform today. And so this is really kind of an allude to that, and it's yet another area where we're looking to expand the DLP capabilities. So moving on, from a Dynamics perspective, you're very familiar with the sandbox operations that we have today. You're familiar with backup and restoring your organization, leveraging copy and reset in your kind of DevOps and ALM story. So the good news is if you've kind of been paying attention and doing some of these operations lately, we are moving this capabilities over into the Power Platform Admin Center. We've already we've already moved the reset and copy over, and that's available in both admin centers currently. And it's also backed with these new changes that we launched by a better service that we've done behind the scenes that's greatly improved the performance of how long these operations take. And hopefully you've seen this if you've today. We're looking to do the same for backup and restore later this year. At the same time, and kind of going back to that original mantra, the online management APIs, and associated PowerShell commandlets that allow you to manage CRM instances as they're coined today. We've also added a reset API and commandlet and updated the copy API and commandlets to leverage that same service. And so we also have plans, as we'll talk about later, to kind of consolidate those commandlets with the PowerApps commandlets, but we're still going to work to improve the current programmatic APIs that we have today that allow you to have control over the CDS and CRM instances underneath the covers. And one thing I do want to call out is these sandbox operations that are going to be available in the Power Platform Admin Center. They do apply to both the Common Data Service and Dynamics databases underneath the covers, but it doesn't. Those operations will not reflect Canvas apps and flows that are not added into solutions. And if you've covered any of the ALM process today, solutions are the way that you can bucket different component types for the purposes of deployment in ALM and DevOps coming from that Dynamics world. And it's available because Dynamics runs on CDS and that platform, it's available there. And even today, in what we've rolled out this spring, you can add Canvas app and flow components into solutions and therefore leverage them as a part of your ALM and DevOps process. And if you do so, then these operations will honor that, and those resources will be copied and restored along with the rest of the entities and data that are stored within CDS and Dynamics. But if you don't, which you're not forced to do that today, those won't be honored as a part of that process. I know that's something that we're looking through and thinking through from a platform perspective around how we support that, but it's not supported today when we port these over initially into the admin center. Okay. I know we've talked a lot about these in some of the other sessions. We have the PowerApps admin commandlets, which are kind of the PowerApps side, whereas the online management is the Dynamics administrative commandlets. We also have the management connectors for the same functionality that are available today, and you can leverage a lot of those admin actions through Flow and PowerApps. One of the key things that we'll be looking to do through later this year is add the missing admin functionality. So in general, our goal as a team is if the admin functionality shows up within the admin center, it should be available in the commandlets, it should be available in the management connectors. We're still playing a little bit of catch up there, and so our goal through later this year is to add the missing functionality, allow you to convert environments, allow you to change all the environment metadata, change the domain name, change the environment type from a programmatic point of view, manage the capacity and reporting that we surface within the admin center, being able to manage all your applications, both from a Dynamics and Canvas App and Flow perspective as well. And really kind of the goal is to allow you to kind of build whatever admin experience and automation you want. And really that is kind of like our goal as a team. And another goal that I personally have, I don't believe will be there by the end of the year, is to kind of actually consolidate our APIs and commandlets into a single library that you can install. Even though today we have a separate set of tools and APIs coming from the Dynamics perspective versus the PowerApps perspective. And it'll very likely that all exist, but I think you can trust me that our goal is to kind of rationalize that and bring them together in the full extent of time. Cool. You've also heard about this if you've been in many of the other sessions today. We have this is a set of tools, and think of these as actually common patterns that have come out, especially in our engagement with a lot of customers adopting PowerApps and Flow. It's a very nice ringtone. Nice. Anyway, so if... Oh. Can you shut it up? We'll make sure that, I'm sure they have a lost and found we can take it to. Yeah. Okay. So if, sorry, getting back on track. So if you're, as we've engaged with companies that have been adopting PowerApps and Flow at scale, a lot of common patterns have emerged. And so our team, along with the PowerApps customer success team, has consolidated a lot of those patterns into templates for Canvas apps, model-driven apps, and flows, and made them available through this COE starter kit. So this starter kit comes with a Power BI dashboard. It comes with a solution that contains a bunch of Canvas apps, flows, and model-driven apps, as well as a whole set of entities that are deployed within CDS. And basically what this solution does is it syncs in a bunch of the activity data around the apps and flows that are being created within your service, leveraging the activity logs that are emitted to Office 365. And there's a bunch of apps and even a visualization within Power BI that actually is built on top of that. And the goal with this is just to provide a starting point for an organization if you really want to not have to build all this from scratch and you need more customization that we afford today within the Power Platform Admin Center. And so this is a great place to start if you're looking to, by the way, even looking to learn how to build on top of PowerApps and Flow. This provides a great starting point that you can build and extend to your company's specific processes, specific goals. And a couple examples that are my personal favorite that, again, I know we've covered today and yesterday was, first of all, we have a really cool app that Denise wrote which actually provides a visualization around the DLP policies that you have configured within your company, and it visualizes which apps and flows that exist within those environments that violate that policy, and actually allows you to kind of play around with which connectors you want to go change within that policy and shows you the impact across your organization for that. A really cool tool that we have today and functionality we should absolutely pull into our admin center when we pull this into the Power Platform Admin Center. This is also something I alluded to, which was that there's also a set of flows that pull data into CDS for the purposes of visualizing that and building custom reports. So not only is there a model-driven app that kind of visualizes all of the apps and flows and activity in your tenant, but it also pulls that data into CDS and then builds, there's a Power BI dashboard that connects to it. Yeah, maybe it's just, can we just hand it to someone outside maybe? Yeah. Thank you, Derry. And anyway, so all this is available via that link that I showed previously. Download it, play around with it, give us your feedback. This is just the first iteration. We definitely will be building on it going forward. And the last thing I'll be covering today, that there's actually a workshop this morning, and we covered this in a couple sessions this week. But really, this is our final point that I'll make around our commitment to trying to support a better tooling and automation approach. One of the things I'm really excited around is we have a new set of official Azure DevOps tasks that are coming out, really built on those same set of APIs and commandlets that we've covered so far around admin operations, management operations. But they'll be coming and available, and we're hoping that I'm actually hoping the preview will come in a couple months, but the preview will be coming later this hopefully this summer, early fall. And it'll be coming with these DevOps tasks that are available. We're also in time hoping that all of those better maker and quality experiences around solution and app checker, the goal is to also incorporate and make those available as well. As we support more and more automated test support throughout the platform, the goal is also to pull that in to that DevOps experience as well, so that you can automate that as a part of your build and release pipelines that you're setting up for your different solutions. And really the cool thing that this does is it allows you to, if you want to invest from a central perspective, it allows you to have a source-centric approach to the platform. It allows you to stamp out new environments, not from scratch. It allows you to stamp them out and rebuild your environment with all of those assets that you've built on top of Dynamics or custom on top of CDS or PowerApps and Flow. And I'm super excited around seeing how this goes. I mean, the goal is to make this open source so the community can build on it over time. And I'm really excited. I think by Ignite, we're going to have an awesome story to go tell around this. It's something that I know a lot of folks have been asking for in the community for some time. Cool. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Manuela, who's going to make it real, everything that I just talked about, but also give you kind of a point of view of the transformation that she's been driving across Virgin that you probably heard about, but from an IT slant. Thanks, Manuela.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. So my name is Manuela. I work for Virgin Atlantic, and I manage a quick win development team there. So I think a lot of what we've heard about in the past couple of days is around this center of excellence. My team was actually formed around 10 years ago with people from various backgrounds. So some of us are developers, technical architects, Dynamics end users, people from the customer center, and we formed this kind of unit that provided a much closer support to the business. So we provide kind of technical solutions, small-scale solutions to internal departments to help build a better relationship with our internal customers. The marketing slide. We're an airline based in the UK. We've got roughly 10,000 employees, half of which are flying staff, so that's pilots and cabin crew. The one thing I want to highlight is that we're a really small airline. We've only got 40 aircrafts, which is significantly lower than airlines like Delta or British Airways. And it is through our really strong partnerships through a joint venture with Delta that we are successful. And we believe that strong partnerships are the key factor in success, so much that our corporate strategy includes the word make friends. And that's both internally as well as externally with partners like Microsoft. And I think some of the things I will be talking about are less technical and more around the building of the relationship. What I found, I've got a development background, and what I found is getting to grips with the connectors, the admin center. That came natural to me. You could just stick your head down, focus on it, and learn it. what was difficult for me was figuring out how to build like long-lasting, high-trust relationships, both within IT as well as with citizen developers. And part of that, the essence of that success is to build an environment where everyone can thrive and grow, where your citizen developers feel confident and comfortable to produce solutions that they know are compliant, are secure, are supported, and where teams like InfoSec, architecture, IT operations also feel confident that nothing's going to go wrong when something falls over. We have a plan for that. So a lot of what we do is actually around the education and the adoption piece. So I've kind of split that out into a few parts, and at the bottom you see a Power BI dashboard that we produced of kind of our adoption rates. At the moment we've got around 80 app creators across a large variety of departments, so they're not just IT departments, and we've got around 300 apps created. What you can see in the kind of the graph at the bottom is in 2018 we created 150 apps, and it's June now in 2019, and we've already created almost 120. So kind of the rate of adoption, the rate that we create apps is growing massively. So what we provide to our citizen developers is things like, so we run internal app in a day, usually with groups of 10 people, so it's really small. Everyone gets attention during the day, but I think it's important to not just leave them after the app in a day and tell them, oh yeah, you're fine now, you can create an app. So we provide learning lunches as well with kind of specific topics, so how to create an offline app, how to connect to SharePoint, how to connect to Dynamics. We offer drop-in sessions where literally I just go in a room, sit down, and people come and ask questions. It's very informal, and they have that knowledge that they will get help there, and no question is a stupid question, basically, and I think that's really important. What worked really well for us is organizing internal hackathons. So we tackle a business case together with subject matter experts from the business. So usually we have a facilitator in the room that kind of helps drive the hackathon along, and then a couple of people that are PowerApps or Flow specialists, or Power BI if that's required, and subject matter experts from the business that understand what they want to do or how their perfect solution looks like really, really well. And together we kind of tackle that scenario, and the goal is that by the end of the day they have something to show to their colleagues and their manager. And it's not a working, it's not a production solution at that point, but they will have something that they can take forward. We've also deployed Champify, which is a learning platform where users can watch YouTube training videos, and they get points, and it's kind of a bit of a gamification. We've got a leadership board, and people are really enthusiastic about being on the top of the leadership board there. In order to kind of grow the community further, what we do is we do show and tell sessions where we show others the solutions that people have created, and we really focus there on the benefit rather than just the app. So did it save money? Did it save hours? Did it increase customer satisfaction? Did it increase employee engagement? And I think especially to get the buy-in from kind of the C-suite and senior managers, it's important to focus on that benefit. And the citizen developer will only be able to thrive if their manager is bought into what they're doing, because it's usually not their day job to create apps. So they really need to understand that it is adding benefit. We're also sharing success stories. And if you've been in a session with Kent Weir, you will have seen him demo the welcome email that gets sent out via Flow. So we've implemented that as well, kind of based on a template that he shared. So if you create an app for the very first time, you get an email welcoming you to the community, points you in a couple of right directions, and shares best practices and standards with you. I think in terms of governance and support, it's really important to focus beyond that one app that you need right now. You have to have a long-term strategy, because once the first apps get rolled out and become successful, there will just be a really long list of people that also want an app created for them, and you need to kind of figure out how to prioritize that. Who's doing what? Is it IT creating them, or when will IT create the application? When is the citizen developer creating it? It's important to provide citizen developers with standards and templates that they can follow, kind of digital guardrails. And we've developed a tailored admin experience that I will live demo in a bit. We've also got a level 2 support team that supports PowerApps for our citizen developers. So I've kind of broken it down into the sections that were covered earlier. So for security and admin, one of the first things we've done is implement the DLP policy to ensure that the connectors we're using kind of a safe way. We've sat down and come up with a strategy for environments, familiarize ourselves with the admin connectors. We've built a custom admin dashboard and set up flows that are reactive to events. So our IT operations team get emails when apps are created that are shared with the whole tenant, for example, or that are using certain connectors. I think a lot of what we've done kind of from scratch is now included in the Center of Excellence Starter Kit, so you've already got an advantage over when I started with this. So we've built a custom Power BI dashboard as well, and the app creator portal I'll demo in a bit. That's for if you're an app maker, you'll be able to see stats of your application and make sure that it's compliant. We provide our citizen developers with templates that follow best practices. I always think it's better if they've got something tangible that they can kind of touch and work with rather than writing a document. So we've built a PowerApps template that follows best practices that I would like to see them follow. It's shared with them. They base their application on that. And by seeing the naming conventions and other standards in there, they adopt them automatically just because that's how the application is built already. I would say that our ALM and DevOps is kind of a work in progress, but I think it's really important to highlight that this is a journey. You won't have everything figured out on day one, and you will kind of reiterate over it and go back and make improvements to how you think things were going to work. So at the moment, we manually export an app from one environment and import it into the one that's managed by the level 2 support team. And then again, for the growing adoption, IT internally, we also provide show and tell sessions and share the success stories. And that brings me to the live demo. There we go. So this is the app creator portal. If you're an app maker, you will go in there. You will see all of your applications, and you've got a small traffic light symbol there that kind of highlights how compliant your app is. And the reason we've done it like that is because it's almost like a stamp of approval if that's a green light. It means that the citizen developer can feel safe or can feel confident that their application is compliant with our IT standards. And very often, I think that was a big concern for our citizen developers. They came to me, they were like, well, I found this purple button and I clicked on it and it created an app, but am I allowed to do that? And through providing them with a tool that shows them their compliant status, they just feel so much more confident in what they're doing. So if I click on one of my apps here, it comes up with a couple of details around the app, who it is shared with, when it was last published, and here is the kind of the traffic light. Is it published in the last 60 days? Have I filled out the support manual? Have I filled out the app description? And does the app have a secondary owner? So at the moment, those are the 4 factors that make sure that an app is compliant for us. For traditional software development, if we hand applications over to support, we have to provide a support procedure manual. Most citizen developers aren't familiar with processes like that. So I kind of took that Word document that traditional app developers have to fill out, put it in the app there. It's very easy for them to provide an overview now. But as a help desk, I now have a bit more information about the app, about the business continuity plan, about tips and troubleshooting. There might be a user manual attached. So as a citizen developer, I now know that if someone rings the help desk and asks something about my app, they can go to that information and get some information from there. And as IT, I feel I have more knowledge about what is going on in my environment, and we're now in a position that we haven't been in before, where people just created Excel spreadsheets. And then kind of on the other side of the spectrum, we've got an admin dashboard, and I think that's kind of inspired by what will be rolled out into what is available in the Center of Excellence Starter Kit. I actually published a new version just 5 minutes before the session to hide some of the details that are a bit more confidential, I guess. So as an admin, I can see all the environments that I have. And within the environment, I can see all the all the applications, and I can choose to only show apps that have been created in the past 7 days if I kind of regularly check the app dashboard. And for each application, I can get a couple of details and errors. So I can here see the same compliance status that the app creator will see in their portal. I can see who the application is shared with and what connectors it uses. And I would definitely say that the admin dashboard is a huge work in progress, I guess. This is really useful, but what I want to introduce is kind of filters to show me apps that aren't compliant, so I can reach out to those app makers and educate them, because it might just be that they don't really know what they have to do to make their app compliant. And a lot of our focus is around that communication and education rather than telling people off. That was all I wanted to share with you.
I love that you updated it right beforehand.
Well, it had all the goods in it, and I was like, no, maybe not.
No, I think it really speaks to the power of the Power Platform. Cool. So that's all that we had today. I know that if anyone has any questions, you can ask them now, or happy to stay after. Hope this was informative. Sure. I think it actually might be a strict subset. I'd have to go look at the actual documentation. It's been a while since I've seen the latest stamp out, but I don't think there's anything today that's provisioned outside of that's in CDS but not in CE. Although that might be the case going forward, especially with a lot of the new capabilities coming to the platform. But I think that is, for example, how it is today if you took a snapshot. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, so, and that's kind of what I was alluding to earlier, which I can't give you a date right now, but it is something that we're actively working on. It's actually something we're working on because we're on the platform team to show you some internal kind of breakout of our teams. The platform team is different than the app teams, and so we actually are working with them to fully decouple the apps from the platform to support just that. That's our goal. I wish I could go say it's going to be there for October. That's not currently committed, but we are really trying to push towards that because we want to have one model and then allow you to provision even multiple apps within the same environment as we're kind of, especially as we add more apps in addition to what's included in the CE plan. So that's definitely our goal. Cool. All right, thank you, everyone. You can come up if you have questions. Appreciate it.